Well, hello everybody, and I am so excited that you have tuned in to view us. We are going to be talking with Judy Arnall today. And before we do, I just want you to know that we are going to be talking about creative, confident, happy kids and how you as a teacher, a parent, a coach, a grandparent can help your children embrace their individuality and increase their self-esteem. I'm Lois Brothers. I'm an educator. I'm a parent. I've coached in many kids in athletics. I'm an acting coach right now. I have my own business with children where I make movies with them. And it has been such a joy for me to see how the confidence and self-esteem of children increases as they're having fun. So that's kind of where I come from. Along with working with so many children, we work with parents too. And I think that as parents and teachers and educators, we have such an important job to do to help guide all of the people that we are coming in contact with and teaching them so that we can guide them to have the best life they can possibly have. So we want to help them get to their life purpose and not hinder. So I am excited to talk with Judy today. And I'm just going to quickly give you a brief. Well, it could take a long time if I told you everything she did, but she's going to be able to tell you a lot of that. But Judy Arnall, she has a Bachelor's of Arts. She is the certified Canadian family life coach educator. She is certified brain and child development specialist. And I love that, Judy, because I love learning about the brain and how we need to take that into context with how we are dealing with our children. And she's a master of non-punitive parenting and education practices. And we're going to get into that a lot in this conversation, which I'm excited to hear about. She has 5 best-selling books in 5 different languages, including Discipline Without Distress and Parenting with Patience. I bet you there's no more books left on the bookshelves as far as that goes right now in our new world that we're living in.
It's popular.
Yeah. She also has compiled a handy tips book titled Attachment Parenting Tips, Raising Toddlers to Teens. I wish I had that. And her latest book is Unschooling to University. Relationships Matter Most in a World Crammed with Content. And that's becoming a bestseller in the age when parents are seeking educational options. So really excited to hear about that. Now, so Judy has 5 children, and 3 of them have finished university. 1 of them is still in university, and 1 is in a master's program. So she has in-depth knowledge. She's not only teaching this, she lives it. And that's why I'm so excited to talk to you today, because what you write and do, what you write and talk about is what you do in your own home. So yeah. Let's get started with non-punitive parenting.
Okay, thank you so much for having me, Lois. I'm so honored to be here and to talk about my favorite subjects in the world, which is parenting and education.
Awesome.
So I just want to talk a little bit about how I came to non-punitive parenting. So across the world, about 85% of parents punish their kids as a form of discipline. So I'm kind of in the extreme minority of 15%. And like many parents, you don't just wake up one day and say, I'm never going to punish my kids. It's on a continuum of what you know and where you're going. So when I had my first 2 kids close together, I decided I'm not going to spank them. Spanking was not in our vocabulary. So my partner and I agreed. So we thought we're never going to do physical punishment. But we read parenting books, and we did the timeout, the jail time timeout. We did the consequences, because we felt that kids have to learn, and that's the way you teach. What the parenting books don't tell you is that as kids get older, they decide who they're going to have a relationship with.
Oh.
And
yeah. Good point.
And they push back. The parenting books tell you what you should do, but they don't see the reaction you get from your kids when you punish them. So I think my oldest child was about 8 or 9, and he said to me, Mom, you're making me choose the consequence. I'm not choosing the consequence. And it impacted our communication. He wouldn't talk to me for a while because he could do that. So I kind of thought, well, I'm not doing physical punishments, but I am doing emotional punishments when I punish through consequences. And I don't do those things to my partner. When we have a problem or conflict, we use more adult ways to deal with it, like talking, figuring out solutions. And then I thought, well, why can't I do that with my kids? Why do I have to make them pay for things? So more and more, I dropped the consequences. So my 3 youngest kids have not been punished at all. All 5 kids now are adults, and our relationship grew. The communication grew. I'm not saying that we didn't have issues. We had, they were normal kids. They went out and made mistakes and did stupid stuff and messed things up. But we never punished them for it. They could always come to us and say, Mom, I messed up. I don't know what to do. And what that does is it takes that fear out of the parent-child relationship. Yeah. So that they do come to you, they do talk to you, you help them problem solve, and they fix things. I'm not saying non-punitive parenting is not holding kids accountable. That is not permissive parenting. It's definitely providing that structure of accountability, saying, you need to fix this. How are you going to do it? And do you need help with that? And holding them to do that. It's not letting them off the hook, but it is not punishing them either, in either ways that are related or non-related. So I raised 5 teenagers without taking the door off their rooms or taking away their cell phones. And we got through probably every issue in parenting without punishment. So I thought, I should write a book about this.
And so talk to me about how you think, the way that you've done that. Like you say, 85% of our population probably doesn't do that, right? So how do you think that helps a child with their self-esteem and who they are as a creative individual? Like, what's the difference? Talk to me about the difference of that compared to the people who do punish.
I think kids grow up with greater self-esteem, and self-esteem comprises of 2 things: self-worth, which is how they view themselves as a person. Are they lovable? And then self-confidence, how they view what they can do, their abilities and capabilities. And when you, for one thing, take that fear out of the relationship, and when you hold them accountable for making restitutions on their mistakes or things they do, they feel better about themselves because they have had a hand in the action of making it better, fixing it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's teaching problem solving at a very early age.
It is. It's from about the age they can talk, like about age 4, start with very, very simple parent-guided problem solving. And then as all through the teen years, a lot of times they can problem solve on their own, or they might want your help, but it's a good relationship skill. That's what we use for our partners. That's what we use for our mother-in-law, hopefully.
Yeah.
And you're teaching them, you're putting money in the bank. You're teaching them a skill they can use for the rest of their lives in their relationships. I think our high divorce rate is because we don't know how to problem solve in relationships. We tend to punish. And we learn it as kids, we do it as adults.
Yeah. Just gets passed on, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's something that
so children who, and I'm saying, yes, it's a lot faster. It's a lot quicker to just quickly give a punishment, whether that's a spanking or a timeout. But problem solving takes time. But like I said, you're putting money in the bank. You're putting your time into a very useful life skill, and it builds kids' self-confidence.
Yeah. Wow, in our world today, how fast it goes and everything, and how we have so many people who are, parents who are both working and everything. I think that time issue, sometimes you just want the quick, easy fix, right? Not really
Mhm.
looking at down the road and how this is going to affect, the child down the road and your relationship, like you said. I really like that you said that. A child they can say if I want a relationship with that person or not.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes when the kids maybe get into their teens, when they're maybe getting a little bit more moody and they're becoming independent and move away a bit, little parents, that just to know that if you've done this stuff when they're in their early age, that even though they are going through that stuff, is they're still going to want to be able to have a communication and talk to you. So that's a huge thing.
And it's very much supported by research. Teenagers really value that parent relationship.
Mhm.
It's often the first course of action they want to go to when they need a problem solved. And I tell parents, if you're still punishing your child when they reach the teen years, like age 11, 12, you're in your last third of parenting. You're in the home stretch. It's time to start parenting your child like an adult, like you would treat another adult in
Right.
your family or in your world, and problem solve with them. Let them talk it out, help them come to some resolutions. And that's where you start getting the better communication. I think a lot of kids just fire their parents during the teen years because they can't talk to them, or they talk to them and then they get punished. And that doesn't work. The kids don't open up to people who punish them. We don't.
Yeah. And that comes with even how I know how we talk to kids. Like, we need to talk to them, not at them or down to them, and really showing that we respect who they are, no matter what age they are. And I think sometimes is, being a school teacher for a lot of my life, and sometimes you just sometimes hear the way kids are being spoken to, and then you hear the kids talking about, oh, that teacher or that whatever, we don't like her because of this and that. And a lot of times it is because they're not being respected as who they are as an individual. And
Yes.
that's really huge. And so I'm really glad you're able to talk to us about this. And I want you to also talk about when a child, let's say, for example, is punished. Okay, that's going to create some anxiety, some anger, some fear within the child. So talk to me a little bit about what's going on in their brain, because so often when their brain is in that state, they're not in a state really to be able to have communication.
Right. And same with us.
Yeah.
When we're in a high arousal state of anger, we're not very good communicators or thinkers, and same with kids. But there's been research done out there, and children under the age of 7, when they're put in timeout, they have very little ability to reflect on what they did to deserve that timeout. Very often adults put them in timeout because the parenting books say, oh, it gives them time to think about it. But they don't really have that reflection skills until about after age 7. And that's the most common discipline tool we use for young children. If we don't spank, we use timeout. But again, they're in timeout, and they're often wondering, why is mom and dad so angry? Or if they do know what they did wrong, they're feeling shame, they're feeling fear, they're feeling anxiety, and that's not productive to anyone. What they need to do is put their energy into fixing whatever they did.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really good to hear. I can't say that I was the parent who, I think I've probably done the timeouts or whatever because I just didn't know. But I never really had to do much disciplining with my daughter because she was just a great kid.
Aww.
So, but I've been a teacher, and I've had, to find ways of how I'm going to deal with some of the students that I've been teaching. And, I always find that if I really treated them with respect and just tried to come and solve the problem, it usually would work. But, we react, because we're human beings. And just because we're adults and we're teachers, it doesn't mean that they're not triggering our buttons, right? And that happens with us too. So yeah, and you just talked about when we are punishing in that, a lot of shame can be instilled within a child, and that's stuff that can really hinder them for the rest of their life. And that's something that I think we really need to think about and be conscious about when we are raising kids or teaching them.
Yeah, and a lot of kids are what we call dandelion kids. They're very resilient, and maybe that wouldn't affect them, but a lot of kids are orchid kids that are very sensitive, and punishment for them can be very, very hurtful and something they carry all along. So when I wrote Discipline Without Distress, everybody loved the book, but they said to me, well, how do I get to that place of not punishing when I am so angry at my child for what they've done? Mm-hmm. And then I thought, okay, I got to write the book about anger.
So what I like about your stuff is you give so much information. Like, I mean, I've been to a bajillion conferences in my life, and I go away, wow, that was really good. And then I go away and go, okay, like, now what do I do? And, when I look at some of your stuff, you have a step-by-step. Here's 3 things that you can do. So, viewers, go and check out her website, because I was quite impressed with, I thought, oh, okay, that's how you would do that. And I think you've done a really good job of that, Judy, being able to really tell people what to do and how to handle it. Because I'm sure that there's people going, well, I have no clue what to do. Can you give us an example? Can you give us an example of where a parent might punish, what a child might have done, and then what you would do that would be different? Can you do that help us with that right now?
Sure. Actually, I wrote about it. It was a really good, one of the moments that I was proud of my parenting. But my 4-year-old son came to me, and he wanted this chips, and it was just about dinner time, and I said, no, you can't have the chips. We're having dinner in 10 minutes. Just hold off. He was 4, and he said, no, I want the chips. And I said, no, you can't have the chips. And he left the room. And I found out later, he took this big bag of chips up to his bedroom. He opened it, threw the chips all over the rug, and proceeded to stomp every last chip into his white Berber carpet. Oh. So it's an example, because a lot of times kids misbehave and they don't know better, right? And parents are okay with that, but it's when they do know better. It's deliberate disobedience that really parents want to pull out the big guns. And believe me, I wanted to spank him at that moment. I was just livid with anger. But he's 4, and I handled it. First, I got myself calm, because that is the golden rule in parenting. That's step 1 in the book, Parenting with Patience, is always, always, always work on yourself first, because we make no good decisions when we're angry.
Like the oxygen, put the oxygen in your face before you're going to help the child. Yeah.
So timeout, if we're really honest, timeout is for us to get some time to get a grip. So rather than force your kids into timeout to get them away from you, you get away from them. Take your timeout. Go in the bathroom, yell in the toilet, flush it down, whatever you need to do. Take a drink of water, have a good cry, call your partner, do whatever it takes to calm down. And I list about 70 ways in my book and on my website. But then when you're calm, then you can come back and say, okay, what do we need to do here? So then I taught him how to clean up. I made him clean up with me, and he's going to clean up if he's not angry either, right? If kids are calm, you're calm, then you get a lot more cooperation to fix the problem. Mm-hmm. So he went through the motions of cleaning up. Now a 4-year-old doesn't do a good job, but that's okay. He did it.
Oh yeah, I know what that's.
And then we talked about, what are you going to do when you're mad next time? Because this is not a good way to handle your anger. So we decided that he was going to stomp his feet next time.
Okay.
And then we talked about, well, the original problem was, what are we going to do when you're hungry before dinner? How are we going to solve that? And then we came up with a solution. So that if I had just gone up and spanked him, that wouldn't have showed him how to clean up. That wouldn't have showed him another way to handle his anger. And it wouldn't have showed him how to problem solve a conflict.
Wow. Yeah. That is gold right there. Because we know our kids are going to do stuff.
They are.
It's almost like we as parents can maybe think, okay, they're going to do something, but great, they're going to learn something too, because because I know what to do now, right? And it's just so much education that I think parents and teachers, everybody needs to know to be able to really guide a child and have them be who they ultimately can be and not grow up with fear and shame and not knowing what to do. So I love that.
And the other part of that is, in all my books, I cover child development, because parents need to know what to expect at different ages. They need to know that even if they know better, when you say no to the chips, oftentimes they don't have the self-control to listen or comply. So I give a really detailed explanation how the brain develops and how from age 0 to about age 3, they have very little self-control, and it comes with age. You can expect a 13-year-old to not eat the chips, but you can't really expect a 4-year-old to not eat the chips. And having that knowledge, because everybody, all the other voices out there are saying, they should know better, you should come down hard, teach them a lesson. Yeah. And yet we know now more about the brain in the last 5-10 years about self-control. So applying that to their age expectations.
I love how you have it so detailed on, in your books and on your website and everything, like 0 to 2, 3 to 5. I'm not sure if I'm quoting them right, but and all the different things that they're going through. And so as a parent, we can't expect to do, like you just said, they should know better. They don't know better. And even though we think they are, because that's how we were brought up, right? And it's because we know so much about the brain. And I just kind of go, oh my goodness, what a relief it must be to parents, if they're going to actually look at this and read it and go, okay, this is what's happening. Okay, no, I can't expect this. So I don't know, for me, if I would have known all that when my kids were so young, it might have been a relief sometime to go, okay, well, they're not supposed to be doing this right now,
Right. So, yes, it is. It is a big relief to parents when you show them the brain and show them, the development of the executive function. They say, oh, can I show this to my partner and my mother-in-law? Yeah.
And that's why I'm addressing everybody who's watching, like grandparents and coaches, teachers, everybody, because our children are with more than just us as a parent, right? And I too am like that. When I find something that's really good, I want everybody to hear about it and to be able to learn about it. So for me, over the last few years, just learning so much about the brain is just like, oh, I wish I would have known this. I had a conversation with my friend, she's a psychotherapist, and I was talking to her about a question I had, and she says, okay, like, she doesn't quite, her brain's not there yet, Lois. You can't expect that conversation to happen. And I went, oh, really? She goes, yeah, down the road maybe. And I just went, wow, I would have ventured into something that, would have made me frustrated because, the learning wasn't happening that what I wanted to have be learned, right? So
right.
Like, oh, I love this brain stuff. It's so good. So wow. So that's thank you for talking to us about that. Judy, can we touch on a little bit about unschooling to university? All right, because we know that people are seeking different educational opportunities for their kids. And I think what you've done with all 5, is that correct? With all 5 of the kids. So as I was reading this, I thought, okay, she's got some credibility here because she's got 5 kids. So somebody might be able to say, well, yeah, it worked for one kid, but it doesn't work for everybody. But I thought, you have 5 children. They probably all have 5 different personalities, and it all worked. So can you tell us how you did that and how it worked? And I'm so interested in that.
Okay. Well, like you said, 5 kids, 5 learning styles, 5 temperaments. I had some spicy children in there and some easygoing kids, 5 different personalities, the extroverts, the introverts. But one thing I noticed is that they all responded to non-punitive parenting, and they all want to learn. All kids everywhere learn.
Yeah.
Where we get into trouble is that we tell them at the age of 6, you can't learn what you want to learn anymore. You have to learn what the government says you have to learn.
Okay, good point. Yeah.
That's forever the problem of motivation in schools, is because kids are they're all scientists. They're so excited about how the world works and how they fit. And then after a few years in a education system that is very standardized, they lose that love of learning and curiosity. And a lot of times they don't get it back. You know, the high school dropout rate in different countries is quite high, I think. If you lose 20% of kids, that's a lot of kids. So anyways, when my kids went to school, my 2 oldest started school. One had a learning disability. And after about a few months, I noticed they're not curious anymore. They don't like to go to school. They don't want to learn what they're forced to learn. And it really saddened me. So then I looked around at parents and I said, well, how do you deal with this? And they start threatening with bribery or punishments to get the homework done, to behave in school. And that just didn't fit with me. So then I decided, okay, I'm going to try the homeschooling thing. Let's try it for a year, see how it works. As desperate parents do, right?
Yeah.
Not many people want to choose it, but desperate parents will try things because they want their kids to learn. Mm-hmm. So we did that. And then after a few months, my kids stopped listening to me because I'm just mom. I'm not an authority figure in the classroom. So, and then I had a toddler and I had a preschooler at the same time, and I couldn't get their attention. And I just let things slide. My husband was working out of the country, and we just played. And I watched the kids, and they played and they learned things, and they learned to write, to do arithmetic. And I thought, wow, this is really amazing. They keep on learning. Mm. And we played for the next 10 years. It was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. And then when they were approaching 15, high school level, I said, do you want to do a more formal program to get started on post-secondary? And they all agreed. And but they did it more the way I wanted to.
There we go.
No worries. So they went more self-directed, but more according to the outcomes of our provincial curriculum. Mm-hmm. So, but they still did it their way. And then they all got accepted into, well, not all of them, 3 of them so far got accepted, 4 of them. I'm losing count here.
5.
4 of them got accepted in. And yeah, so they, again, it's all tied to the brain. When the brain is ready, then they had more ability to, sometimes they have to go through the hoops. They had to do chemistry. They had to do biology. Maybe they didn't want to do chemistry, but they needed it to go into engineering. So they're going to do it, right? Because the brain is ready. Their prefrontal cortex, their executive function, their self-control's all there, that they're going to slog through something they may not be interested in order to get to where they want to go.
Right.
Yeah. But it was very interesting. And then we hung around with a lot of other unschoolers, which this is called. Child-directed learning is unschooling outside the school, and it's called self-directed learning inside the school. And I noticed about 30 of their friends and my friends' kids all went off to post-secondary at the same time. And I thought, gee, nobody knows about this. I have to write a book.
Wow.
So I wrote the book because that was kind of our benchmark, was that if you were accepted in a post-secondary program, I want to write about you, because that's what people say, well, does unschooling work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you know how many people now are doing this? Like, do you have any information about that?
So it's very hard to quantify because there's not a lot of research out there, because for one thing, unschooling doesn't make anybody any money. It doesn't provide curriculum. It doesn't hire people for jobs. So there's not a lot of good research, other than that conventional estimates are about 10% of all homeschoolers follow the self-directed philosophical approach to education. So, and they all have to follow the same acceptance rules for post-secondaries.
Right.
So they do get in. Yeah, there's not a lot of research out there, but it's also growing in every country. So I go on Facebook, and there's unschoolers in India, in Australia, in not so much in Japan or Germany, but in a lot of countries. This is a grassroots movement that is spreading through word of mouth. It's not being advertised, but it's spreading. And people are trying it out, realizing their kids are still learning, but learning through what they want to do, not what we tell them to do.
Exactly.
And they're still, and I think that's the future of education, in that the elephant in the room is that kids can learn from anywhere now, right? It doesn't have to be government schools. It can be, especially with what's happened recently, there's a whole lot of online education out there that is not the whole package of school, but little a la carte classes here and there that kids can sit for half an hour and learn coding, and not have to sit for 5 hours in a day.
Yeah.
Everything.
One thing I really noticed when schools was shut down because of COVID, it was just like, the amount of learning that can happen in 2 hours a day. It takes a whole day at school. And I was talking to this one parent, and she says, for the last year, my daughter wants to stay home and learn, because she can get everything she needs in the 2 hours in the morning, and she can start getting a part-time job right now, and be able to earn income right now to go and do what she wants to do. If that was travel, leave the country, do whatever she wanted to do. And so I thought, wow, there's a lot that can get done in such a short amount of time. When you talk, sorry.
Yeah. Even my kids, when they were doing a more self-directed high school program, they didn't spend more than 2 hours a day doing work for high school, and they had the whole rest of the day to themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, you were such a pioneer in this. That's I think you're brave and courageous. Where I'm thinking some parents might be thinking, oh, well, she's negligent. She didn't send her kids to school. Do you know what I mean? But it's such an example of the people that you know and your children, and how they're thriving right now. And I think maybe perhaps in our future, when a lot of the stuff that they're learning in school is not going to be necessary. And we're going to have to parent and start to teach very differently, because I think our world between now and 2030 and 2050 is going to change much quicker than it has. Yes, we've had a lot of change, but it's going to go way faster, I think. And I think we really need to think about how we are going to direct our kids and inspire them, and inspire the parents to learn something that's different and be okay with it, to be able to inspire the children, because they're the ones that are going to be living, in 2050, when we don't even know what's going to be happening. The world will be run by robots or something.
Well, that's the thing. Like we don't know what jobs we're preparing them for, but we do know that there's going to be a lot more tech jobs out there. And right now, our government curriculum gives kids 1 hour of coding a year, 1 hour. And it takes 10 to 15 years to roll out and change a curriculum. So it's a big system that is so slow to change, and yet kids can just hop on the internet and learn coding. They can self-teach themselves coding. I learned coding because my son wouldn't do my website anymore, so I had to learn how to code. But
Well, good for you. I haven't learned that yet. I wish I knew it.
It's better than crossword puzzles. But and I think that's the future of education, is that we acknowledge that kids can learn from anywhere. It doesn't have to just be school. It can be through jobs, volunteering, online classes, through in what parents are doing now through homeschooling co-ops, or and then the future is proving qualifications, I think. So writing the SATs, or because like all of us, I want my pilot to have a certain measure of qualifications, right? Sure. I want my brain surgeon to have a certain level of competency. So I think exams, improving qualifications will be the future, but where kids pick up that knowledge can be anywhere, in any way, anyhow.
Yeah. And I think, right now we're living in that time when there's huge change. And I personally have seen this as an opportunity to look at this as, yeah, it's not great, but wow, there's so much change that's happening. We have contact with everybody in the world right now. And,
yeah.
I think that's minus people dying, and we are living in a pandemic here. But I think that there is so much opportunity here, and just talking about how this could potentially really benefit kids, because I think the creativity now that can happen, and with that I always see, and kids are doing what they want to do and not being told what they should be doing, and then seeing that they're enjoying it. That's where they become confident and happy. Like, we want them to be happy, right? And we want them to love what they're doing. I think that, wow, if everybody in the world was loving what they did every morning that they woke up, and then they pass that on to their children, we'd live in a different world,
We would.
Idealist.
But I think part of it too is when I remember when my kids were in school, you had very little time in the day for them to actually play or explore. They went from 6 hours of school, another 2 hours on the bus, homework, after school activities. Their playtime was about 20 minutes. And play is where kids make sense of the world, find out their passions, discover more about themselves. And the amount of playtime they have got in the last 20 years has dramatically been reduced. And when they self-direct their education, they play. My son took apart appliances. He's now an engineer. My daughter would dabble in art, and now she's going into publishing. So it's where they find their passions, and they need more time to do that, and time that's not unstructured time, not programmed time.
And I think so interesting for us as educators or parents and everything, when we give them that playtime, we actually see what they love. We actually have the time to stop and really see them, listen to them, watch them. And that's so beneficial for us to be able to see, that's what they're going to be doing. It can be, I feel that with children, and it's exciting to see what they're going to gravitate to, instead of sometimes parents thinking, well, I hope my kid does this, right? And sort of guiding them in that direction, which is not theirs. And I remember once when I was teaching this, it was quite a difficult classroom, and there was grade 1, 2s, and 3s, and I believe in it. And it was a tough group, because I was only coming in for a month. And I got to the point sometimes where it was like, wow, this is hard. Today we're playing. At the end of the day, we're playing. And I got to the point where I would see them play, and all of a sudden the room was quiet, and they were engaging, and they were having fun, and they had conversations, and they were being kind to each other because they were helping each other. And it was just beautiful. I get the shivers when I think about it, because I actually got to see them as little as these individuals, because I didn't know them as well as the regular teacher did, because I was just coming in.
Yeah.
And so every day I says, you know what, these guys need to play. And at the end of the day, and when they started to know that at the end of the day, I was going to give them an hour, maybe sometimes an hour and a half to play. Wow, they
Yeah.
got their other stuff done,
Yeah.
because that was coming. And I
Yeah.
never used it like they wouldn't get it. You know what I mean? Because then that would have been punishing. But boy, there was times when I wanted to. Um, but I just knew that I was going to be able to watch and see. And then was able to have conversations with them after saying, wow, I saw you do that. Talk to me about that. And all of a sudden now, theirs was that respect, that one-on-one conversation where we were just having a conversation and I was getting to learn what was really in their minds and what they loved. And it was fabulous. So this whole thing about play that you're talking about, Judy, I've experienced it in chunks of time when I've been a teacher. And then also when my kids were young, just, okay, go play. What are you going to do? And then watch what they did. So, yeah.
Yeah, that exactly describes it. And it's learning without any motivation problems whatsoever. They are truly loving it, and it's good for them, and they're learning things. And I'd have to add too, 5 of my kids were all gamers. They were video gamers. And for the most part, it really worried me, the amount of time they spent on video games. But I look at them now as adults, and I've done webinars on this, how it affects brain development in good ways and things that we have to watch for. But I look at them now, and they're very techy. One's an engineer in cybersecurity. Like, these are fields they're going into, and they need screen time. They need balance.
Oh, I love the way you just brought up gamers, because I just recently watched this a TED talk about this mother. She's talking about her 2 boys that are gaming, and she just talks about, and I want to interview her. I want to talk to her about all the great things about what gaming is, whereas some of us think that, oh, what are they doing? They're doing that, and we're putting it down. But wow, I learned a lot from that. Yeah.
And we need to extend that to girls. Girls somehow have been socialized out of the whole gaming world, and it provides so many benefits, like critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, that they need to get into.
Yeah. Wow.
And a balanced life is good too. Like, there is balance, but yes.
Wow, this has been, it's been great talking with you. And is there anything else, Judy, that you want to talk about, that you'd like to say before we finish off here?
I just want to say you trust that your kids they're going to be good people. You don't have to use punishments. They're going to grow into awesome citizens with a great relationship with you. And trust that your kids are going to keep on learning with or without you. Their kids are driven to learn, and they're driven to fit into society and be good people. So reconsider where you're at. We all don't start one day saying, okay, I'm not going to punish, but maybe give it a try, see how it goes, see the improvement in relationships. And
I've learned a lot, and I'd really encourage all you viewers who are watching this right now to, if what you're doing is not working, maybe really look into this, because we can always change. We have to admit that we haven't always done things right, but that's not a problem. We can always change and go into a different direction. So I'm happy that you have been able to talk to us about that. And I'm sure there's going to be people who are going, okay, I'll see if it works. You know what I mean? I can try it. But it makes so much sense when we're talking about our kids and their self-esteem and being happy and creative and doing what they were, put on this earth to do, because I believe we all have a purpose, right? And if they've got somebody in their life that is allowing that to happen and not hinder, I think that's, we're doing our job then. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. So listen, can you tell everybody about the gift that people are going to be able to get?
Yes. I have a child development chart. It's a 10-page chart of development, physical, cognitive, social, emotional, of ages 0 to 20. because often you just find them 0 to 5, but you need to know what's going on in your teenager too. That parents can access, they can print it off, they can keep it on their device, whatever, they can refer to it. So they just have to send me an email and I can send them that.
Yeah, that's
right away.
jrnell@shaw.ca, and we'll have that available for people to click on and get to your website and be able to look at everything else that Judy has, because I know we could talk about many more things that you've done and that you're doing, and I think it's really exciting. So I thank you for having this conversation and how I know it's going to benefit a lot of people. And benefit parents, benefit teachers, educators, coaches, grandparents, and then it's going to filter right down to our children. So
thank you.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for this. And so everybody, thank you for tuning in and listening to our conversation with Judy Arnall. And I look forward to bringing many more other good things to you, so that you'll be able to learn on how we can have and enhance our creative, confident, happy kids. So thanks so much. And
thank you, Lois.
talking to you again. Okay, thank you.
Okay.